The other movie I wanted to mention is this thing which is called Armadillo, which is a Danish documentary, which I suppose has, refers to some extent to Restrepo. Like Restrepo, it's named after an outpost, or Hurt Locker, which won the Oscar not so long ago. Essentially, the filmmaker, Janusz Metz, went with a group of Danish soldiers from Copenhagen out to Helmand, and then he follows them very, very closely through their tour of duty there. And he's right in the middle of what's happening with them. It's quite an extraordinary documentary. It is cinematically very, very beautiful, which is an odd thing to say, but it is a very cinematic piece of work. Like Restrepo, it's shocking how young the people involved in the conflict is. The director said specifically that what he was trying to do was to deal with he said he wanted to explore the micro level of war, where human interaction takes place and affects one of the greatest conflicts of our time. And you do get that sense of it is the micro detail, it's the tininess, it's the specificness of the detail that's so astonishing about it. There are, of course, during the course of the action, there are tragedies, there are firefights, there is also controversy, and there is a very, very sort of complicated conflict in which whether the right thing or the wrong thing has been done. I don't want to say too much, because in a way it's best to sort of find out. I mean, one of the interesting things about watching the documentary is essentially you watch the action play out before your very eyes, and it does have that extraordinary sense of being, right in the. I mean, the filmmaker and his cameraman really were right there in the middle of it all. One scene in it, there's the still image, which is a picture of a wounded soldier looking at the camera, and it reminded me to some extent of Don McCullin's very famous photograph of a Vietnam veteran who's been shell-shocked. And of course there is a moment in the documentary when one of the soldiers says, "Welcome to Vietnam," and that comparison is just made but then passed on. The movie had a great impact. It's played in festivals, which has been very well received. It's also caused an awful lot of political turmoil about investigations about whether or not this is the way we ought to be proceeding more, whether there's a point to this. Well, actually, I think what's most interesting about it is just how human it is, just how much it is a very, very personal account of a conflict. I mean, it's very hard to watch. There are things towards the end of it that are genuinely shocking in a way that they should be genuinely shocking, but it's as a sort of a companion piece to Restrepo, which I also like very much. I mean, it felt like it had certain more freedoms than Restrepo did, but it is interesting that we've now got to the point that that there are documentary filmmakers who are taking their cameras and taking their cinema right to the heart of these conflicts and making things that are really unimaginable just in the relatively recent past. It is a very, very strong piece of work, Armadillo.